We crochet bees. Yay! New tutorial. Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be crocheting these cute little bees for spring. I hope you enjoy them. Super simple to make. I'll show you everything and every step of the way. And in addition to that, if you'd like to hold 2 strands of Aran weight yarn together, the same pattern will give you this bee. Hey guys, it's Mel from Melody Crochet, and we're going to be crocheting a bee together today. I'm really excited. I've been telling everybody on my lives that I was going to do this. I just had to get through my last tutorial for the hats. I wanted to do bucket beanies first, but we are on to the crochet bee, and I'm really excited. And I want to make sure that everybody has this accessible, so I'm going to speak really broadly in terms. You don't have to have anything in particular. I want you to use whatever you have. I'm just going to explain to you what I have personally, and then you choose from there. This is worsted weight yarn, Red Heart Super Saver, and this is I Love This yarn from Hobby Lobby. You could also use the Value Economic from Craftsmart from Michaels. All of these are really affordable and really soft, so that's why I'm suggesting them. I wanted to do kind of a generic colored bee for you, but if I use black instead of this gray, it's going to be really hard to see that part. So we're going to make a black, yellow, and white bee. All of these yarns suggest an eye hook, but we're not going to be using an eye hook because this is closer to amigurumi, which means you're going to go down a hook size. Like this suggests an eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter, and I'm using a 4.5 millimeter. I could even go lower. I could do a G. I could, in some cases for amigurumi and worsted weight, I'll even do an F hook, but I want this to be cuddly. So I'm going to go down about 1 millimeter from the suggested yarn size on the package. Any yarn you buy is going to have suggested, and how many millimeters the hook is, just go down like 1. And that way it doesn't end up too open and your stuffing doesn't fall out, because that happens sometimes. It's a bummer. You also, of course, are going to need scissors and a yarn needle for snipping and for weaving in ends and sewing on a little face at the end. I'm going to get started with a magic loop. So anything you need more instruction on, feel free to look down below. I have links to all of my tutorial videos, and we'll choke right on up. I have the tail of the yarn pinched between my index finger and my thumb. Okay, then I'm taking the working yarn, going up, back, over, and clasping that working yarn with my pinky. Then I'm taking my hook, I'm going under the yarn on the side of the X over my ring finger, not my index finger, grabbing that top yarn, pulling it down, twisting to lock it, grabbing that yarn that's connected to the yarn ball, pulling under to chain 1 time. There we go. Now I'm just going to pinch that because we only need 1 chain for this, because this is going to be all single crochets, which makes this so easy to do. This chain does not count as one of the 6 single crochets I'm going to be putting in this magic circle. So to do a single crochet, you're going to go under, grab that yarn, draw up a loop, yarn over, and pull under everything on the hook. That's 1 single crochet, and we need 6. There's our 6 single crochets. Now we need to cinch this closed just a itty bit. Not really hard. You can cinch it closed even more after a couple rows without warping your circle. Now count back 6 stitches. Slip your hook underneath the first single crochet that you made. Grab that yarn and pull under everything on the hook. So there you've slip stitched, and now you're chaining 1. And now we're going to place 2 single crochets in each single crochet in this row. So there's 6. We're going to end up with 12 stitches total. So insert your hook, grab that yarn, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull under, and then do it again in the same stitch hole. That's how we make circles. Increases. This is an increase single crochet. it is. I think that's about 12. Yep. So I'm going to place my stitch and do a slip stitch into the first single crochet of this row now. And that's all it is. We're just going to change the number of stitches between our increases. So that was an increase in every stitch. The next row is going to be a single crochet by itself followed by an increase, and that's going to be our pattern. Let me show you how that goes. Chain 1 for height. In the same stitch that you just slip stitched into, single crochet. And then in the next one after that, 2 single crochets for a single crochet increase. And then do that all the way around. 1, and then an increase. By the time you're all the way around, you're going to have 18 stitches. And there's your 18 stitches all the way around. Slip stitch into the first one. Now we're on row 4. Chain 1, 1 single crochet in the first stitch you just slip stitched into, 1 single crochet in the stitch after that, and the one after that gets an increase now. So do that pattern all the way around. You're going to end with 24 stitches total. And there's your 24 stitches all the way around. And see how your little circle's forming? But if you push on it just a little bit and turn it to the side, see how it's kind of rounding, almost like a bowl? That's what we want. Of course, we're not going to round it this way. This is the back side of the stitches. So this is the nose of your little bee right now, looking right at you. So slip stitch into the first stitch we made in this row, chain 1, and for row 5, you're going to single crochet 3 times all by themselves. So 1, 1, and 1, and then increase. You're going to do that all the way around for 30. And there we are at the end of our row 6. To start row 7, you're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the row and chain 1 for height. And for this, you're going to single crochet into the first 5 stitches. There's 5, and then an increase. So 2 single crochets. I'm going to do that all the way around, and you're going to end up with 42. Here we are at the end of row 7, and that roundness is really starting to show through. So you're going to see how your bee will have kind of a rounded nose. So there we are, and you're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the row. Count back if you need to. It would be 42, chain 1, and for the next one, we're going to be single crocheting in the first 6 stitches before we increase, and do that all the way around. And then increase. Here's the end of row 8, and we're going to start row 9. I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the row, chain 1, and now we're going to be single crocheting 7 times before your increase. And here's our increase. And you're just going to repeat that all the way around. At the end, you're going to have 54 stitches in this row. Here we are at the end of row 9. I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the row, chain 1, and the next row we're going to single crochet into the first 8 stitches of the row, and then we're going to increase. So this is going to be a row of 60 stitches. We are almost at the end of our increases. After this, we're going to do it one more row and then you're kind of home free. So keep on going. You're doing great. So 8 single crochets followed by an increase stitch. And you'll have 60 stitches at the end of the row. Here we are at the end of our row, and we're going to start our last increase row. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're starting row 11. This is going to be our last row of increases. So you're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the row, chain 1, and you are going to single crochet into the first 9 stitches, and then you're going to follow that with an increase. Do that all the way around, and you're going to have 66 stitches. Alrighty, I have finished my increases. So we have finished the face of our bee, and when you stuff it, it will be even more concave, but you'll notice it should look a little bit like a bowl. And you want to make sure that you have the right side stitches facing out. So this is what it looks like on the side that is the right side. This is where you're going to put the face, and this is the inside. Notice the stitches just look a little bit different. So there he is. I'm so excited. And when you set him down right now, we are gonna take a peek really fast, and I want to point out where center is. So here is center, okay? And your eyes are gonna go almost all the way out and just barely above center. Seems weird. I mean, usually we would think, you know, nose, eyes, smile, but no, you want the eyes to be just out and above center. Barely. So no matter how big or small you've made this, see this hole here? Just go out about 3/4 of the way, 2/3 of the way, and then go up just a little bit. And if you want to put a little marker there, a yarn marker or something, feel free. And if you want to put the eyes on right now, it might be a good idea. I like to go a couple more rows, but not too many. And to do that, just to get this started, we're going to go ahead and take some gray yarn, making the magic circle, going under, and then following row 1 through 4 of the pattern we just made again, because they're just circles. So 6 single crochets, then cinch close the circle, slip stitch into the first one, and you might notice some of the seams from my slip stitching, but since yours is probably in black, you totally won't notice it at all. Now each of these 6 single crochets gets 2 single crochets. We're just making the eyes really fast because you don't want to wait till the end to sew these on. At least I don't. If you make a bigger bee, feel free to make it whatever feels good as far as a circle. Just keep going until you like it. Slip stitch into the first stitch of this row, count back to see if there's 12. You can increase like we did in the next row if you'd like, but I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to do a little fasten off and leave a really long tail for sewing it on. And quickly go ahead and make another one. And we have our eyes on. Well, not on. I'll show you how to put them on. But you're not going to have them straight up from there. Just slightly above. So, to get them exactly where you want them, go ahead and thread the center strand, the one that started our magic circle, and then place that exactly where you want the eye. That way it'll kind of anchor it. Then you're going to sew it on with this one from where you fastened off. I'll thread the strand from that we fastened off, pick up my piece, holding it secure because I put that back there, and then I just go all the way in and bring it up several times through. Now go ahead and attach the other one. Now the other eye is attached. Then I'll just go in the back and I will knot those two strands that I put through the back just to secure them. And it is a triple knot, so boop, right there. So those strands are out of my way. And as far as the mouth goes, the mouth is going to be right below. And I'm just going to make a very simple smile. So I just made, I'd say this is about 14 inches of yarn. Then I'll get the two strands and tie that. Looks like it was a little bit more than 14 inches. Might have been closer to like 18. Then I just work my way from the center of the eye on both sides together. Not touching the eye, but the center of that eye right there. And to connect it, I will put it into the next strand for my smile. I'll push in to the next hole on the way, and I'll turn it over, and I'll pull that knotted part out from where I just went in, and I come in right there. That way it's locked into place. The next part I want to go through, and I just keep on going through. No puckering, so don't do anything too tight. And just work along that strand. See how that row right there just goes from one eye to the next? I'm just working along that row. You can do every hole in between stitches or every other or some combination. Totally up to you. And I'm going to stop right around here, I think. Then go in there. And he's got a little smile. Cut this. I'm going to weave one away. So I'll take one of those strands I just cut to get the needle out, and I'll take it so it comes out another hole, and then I'll tie behind there. If you tie it when they came out of the same hole, it doesn't really work out well. So take one of the little strands that came out of the hole away. That way he's secure. Now he needs cheeks, in my humble opinion. Since we're using gray, white, and it would be black, I'm gonna go ahead and use the white for his blush. So hopefully this will be long enough. I just got a nice healthy strand of white. I am threading it on just like I did with the gray, except much longer. Making that little knot. I don't even think I'll need all this yarn, but I might. And I do cut the yarn between the two cheeks because I don't want it to pucker. So like you could go through here a couple times and then take that yarn all the way over behind here to the other one and keep going. But then you've kind of connected the eyes behind there, and when you stuff it, it might go whoop. So I highly suggest cutting and restarting, even though it's a total pain. So I like to take my blush from here, just under the eye, out. And maybe have it a little wider out here than here. So let me show you how I accomplish that. I go here, right under. Then I go here. Okay. Then I go back through that. just to lock it into place. So now it's locked into place. It's a little low for my taste, so I'm going to make sure I go higher than that for the next few rows. Hopefully it will take care of that. Now I'm going to go kind of high. See? And then I'm going to go, and I'd like it to go a little farther. So this next one I come back out of the same place, and I'm going to take it even farther out because I really want it to be a little wider than that eye. There we go. So he's got a little blush. I'm going to come right underneath that because I'd like that one right there to be a bit wider. And it's just put it wherever you think it needs some. He's cute. And like I said, it would be really nice to just go right on over and start the other cheek from here. But I highly suggest cutting and starting over, just because otherwise you might tie behind him a little tight, and when you stuff him, his face might pucker, and that's not fun. There we go. Pretty cute. And if you want to do a little glint in his eyes, then you just go on up, and I'll do one little dot so I come out his eye and wipe the hole right by it, go right back in. And that should just be a glint. And then up top you want it to be a slightly larger glint. So come out the top and go back maybe 1 or 2 stitches away. So it's a larger glint up top. There we go. Heck, make a whole circle, give him a ring light. I don't know. That's usually all I do for the glints in his eyes. Fortunately, this is really easy to tie off because you have that eye up front. And we'll give him a glint in this eye too. Alrighty, so go ahead and pick up where you left off on the little bee face. And we are going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 2 rows before we do a color change. So slip stitch into the first stitch of this row, chain 1, and you're going to single crochet 1 time in each stitch. At the end of this row, you're going to slip stitch again, chain 1, and single crochet 1 time in each stitch again. So there'll be 66 stitches, unless you decided to stop a little earlier or later, totally up to you. 1 time in each stitch all the way around. Then I'll show you a color change. See you at the end of row 13. So I finished those 2 rows. Now I'm slip stitching into the first stitch of the row, and I'm going to fasten off. And then I usually like to go to the bottom to reattach, because I'm going to be reattaching a different color. To do that, you just take the end of your new color, put it over your hook, attach wherever you want to in the previous row. Make sure you get under both legs. Don't grab the tail, grab the working yarn, and go under and draw up a loop. Then you can chain, then you can drop a loop, chain, and now just behave as though it was already attached. So in the next stitch, single crochet across. But I will make a point, this one where I attached, I will put a single crochet there at the end of the row, because that wasn't really, it doesn't really count as a crochet. It's not bulky enough. It doesn't have anything on top of it to work into. So you're going to want to put your last single crochet in that same stitch that you attached into. And then just single crochet it all the way around. This is our first stripe of 3. So we'll be going back and forth between the yellow and 3 gray stripes. And here I am at row 33. We had 13 rows up until our first color. Then we had 5, 5, 5, and 5, so that was another 20. So this is row 33 right here. And I'm going to attach for my last stripe of gray, or whatever your complement color is. I have my yarn right here, attaching the yarn. and then single crocheting around for 2 more rows. And then we're going to start some decreasing for your bee bottom. So go ahead and single crochet around for 2 rows. And here we are at the end of row 35, so we have 2 rows of the next color. We're going to start the decreases soon, but I just thought about it and it's a really great time to attach some wings. So go ahead and slip stitch and stop, or just put down your project and just keep your gray from unraveling. We're going to break out the wing color. So, same size hook. Mine are going to be white because I'm trying to keep them pretty generic as far as bee colors go. I'm going to start with that magic circle again. Chain 1, and we will be working in single crochets. We're going to be doing some increases, so I'm going to start with 6 single crochets. 3, 4, 5, and 6. I have noticed that my white yarn is just a little bit puffier than my other colors. Excuse my puppy. Slip stitch into the first single crochet that you made. Chain 1, 2 single crochets in each of your 6 single crochets from the previous row. So you'll end up with 12 again. Stitch into the first one of the row. Chain 1. We're going to do another row of increases. This pattern is going to be 1 single crochet followed by an increase single crochet, so 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Work that all the way around. You'll end up with 18 single crochets at the end of this row. Slip stitch into the first of the row until you have 18. Chain 1, and we're going to increase again, so this time it's going to be 2 single crochets all by themselves, followed by an increase. And at the end of this row, you'll have 24. I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch of this row. Basically, we are just going to single crochet around evenly. That's going to make them curl up just a little bit. So each stitch, there's 24 in mine, will get a single crochet. Oops, I missed. Slip stitch into the first one and fasten off with a nice long tail for sewing in at the end. Should look something like that. Go ahead and make another one just like this. And there's our second one. Okay, let's attach them. So I like mine right in the middle. And I just take mine, put them where I want them, and then pick one. Trying to aim toward the very center of those eyes though. Oh, I almost put them on its tummy. That would have stunk so bad. There we go. So I have my little eyes and my little nose, and we can go straight back. If you want to mark that, feel free. I might even do that. Let's do it. I have this little clover that I like to keep. I made those on a previous video. And I just use it now and again when I want to mark center or something like that. So I'm just eyeballing it, but here is center. Then when we're done, I'll just pull that right out. Boop. Don't even have to tie it or anything. It's long enough to where it just kind of stays. So now I have center marked. And I'm going to attach my little bee wings right around there. The face is here. Let's go ahead and go a little farther back. Right where that second stripe starts. So I'm going to thread my needle. And I'm taking this right to center line. Take that all the way through. I'm going to take the one that came out of the middle and I'm going to lay this down, find out where center is. And I'm going to go right down under where center of, because this comes out of the center, so I'm going to find out where it lies down and just send it right through. Right there. So now they're both coming out the center. I'm going to be sewing with the one that came out of the side though. That one that came through the center, that's just to kind of anchor it down. So let's find that one. And you could even start by doing a little tie down just to kind of tack it if you want to. But you are going to need to sew it some more. So you're not going to get away from that. So go ahead and rethread your longer thread. Because the one that came out of the center should be shorter than the one that you used to fasten off. So you want the nice long thread. And just go ahead and go back and forth and sew a little line. Right from center to outside, or in this case from outside to center. And you don't have to, you can skip a few stitches if it makes it easier. I usually do. I just work back and forth, but not right by the stitches because that's really hard to do. Unless you want to blanket stitch, like literally go in and come out. And then I'll work my way toward the inside. Come out the very last row right toward center line. There. And then I'll work back and forth along the edge so it doesn't lift up. Not too much, just a little bit, because you want them to curl up a bit. And there's nothing precise. You just eyeball it until it looks like it's well attached and how you like it. So there it is. From the side, it still stands up. And if you'd like some more, feel free. Mine looks like this. So if you don't like how you see those two stitches right there, go along that. No worries. Whatever makes you feel like it's complete. Since I did that in the back, I'll do it in the front too. That's my thing. It has to be symmetrical. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be the same kind of imperfect on both sides. And I'm going to re-square knot, because remember we had that other one still sticking out in the back. I'm going to re-square knot. Amazing. And now you can go ahead and attach your other wing. Alrighty, we've attached his little wings. They're up and fluffy. Go ahead and take out any markers that you might have used. I have this strand right here, still attached and still on the outside, because I want to send a couple strands just through his wings. Now that they're both on, I just want to sew them together. Just so the wings don't have any strange seams that make them look separate. And it helps them stand up just a little bit. So I'm just doing a little blanket stitch right between the two wings. And now, once you do that, mine unthreaded. So looks like mine has gotten too small for my needle. So I just put my needle where I want it to go till the eye of the needle is really close to my yarn. And then I thread it. Send it through. If this is for you, you could even put a little dab of glue on it, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. I'm going to do a double knot with one of the long strands that happens to still be in the back. Our wings are all attached. And it is time to do our decreases and make our little bee bottom. We are going to be decreasing over the next few rows, and right about the time you get, I'll let you know, but just in case, now that we're decreasing, you might want to have your stuffing nearby, because we do have to stuff before we close them all the way up. But don't do it yet, because it will just be a flubby mess. But this is what he looks like inside so far, and this is what he looks like up front so far. He's looking really cute. So let's start our first decrease. We have, and I'm not going to keep you suspensed here, we have 3 more rows of gray before we go back to yellow, and 11 more rows total of crochet before we are cinching it closed and being done with it. So that being said, the next 3 rows are decrease rounds in gray. Then we're going to go back to our yellow for the completion of our little bee, or whatever colors you're using. But we have to complete this stripe. So we're going to work backward. We are crocheting 9 times, single crochet. And then decrease single crochet. Now that means we insert, grab that yarn, drop a loop, insert directly into the next one, grab that yarn, draw up a loop, 3 strands on your hook, yarn over, pull under everything. I'll show you that one more time. So this is a decrease single crochet, meaning we are going to be taking 11 strands because we did 9, and now we're doing the last 2, which is 11 total, and we're going to be making 10 stitches out of it for next. So our decrease is insert, yarn over, draw up a loop, insert into the next stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, pull under everything on the hook. And that's our decrease and what we're going to be doing. So you're going to repeat that 6 times all the way around. That was the first repeat. So the next one, the pattern is single crochet for 9 stitches and then decrease single crochet all the way around. Alrighty, I finished that row. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the first single crochet of the row, chain 1, and for this row we're going to single crochet 1 time into the first 8 stitches, there's our 8th, and then we are going to do our decrease single crochet. And just work that all the way across this row. Awesome, I've come to the end of this row, slip stitching into the first single crochet of the row, chain 1, and we're going to move on to our last gray row, which is going to have 7 single crochets before you get the decrease. So there's 7 single crochets all by themselves, and then our decrease single crochet. And just do that all the way across, 7 single crochets followed by a decrease single crochet. Here we are at the end of row 38. We are going to go ahead and slip stitch into the first stitch of the row and fasten off because we need to reattach our yellow. Pull it through somewhere in my last row. Chain 1 for height, and then single crochet. Now we're going to be doing another decrease row. We're still in that. So in this pattern, you single crochet 6 times, and then you decrease. And here's my decrease stitch. And just do that all the way around. I'll meet you at the end of this row. Here we are at the end of row 39. We're getting ready for the next decrease, so slip stitch into the first stitch of the row, chain 1, and the pattern for this row is single crochet for 5, and then decrease, single crochet. Beautiful. So 5 single crochets followed by a decrease all the way around. We're getting really close to the point where we are going to stuff this because I don't know about yours, but mine's getting manageable. We need to be a little bit smaller for stuffing, otherwise it's all going to fluff out. But at this point, we're getting there though. We're getting really close to it. Now we're starting row 41. And this is slip stitch into the first stitch of the row, chain 1, and you're going to single crochet into the first 4 stitches and then follow that with your decrease single crochet. Here we are at the end of the row. We're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet of this previous row, chain 1. We're going to go around another time before we decide to stuff this, I believe. So let's go ahead and do the next row, which is single crochet 3 times and then decrease. Now it's going to start decreasing a lot faster now because those decrease stitches are a lot closer together. So I'm pretty sure this next one is going to be a great one to stuff in. Alrighty, I've finished this row. We have a nice opening left here. Let's go ahead and pull this out just so we have it not unraveling on you. And I have my bag of fluff. It is called Polyfill, Premium Polyester Fiber Fill. And I just start. Now this is not going to get lost on the outside. You can do what you can to keep it outside, but it's not going to get lost or anything. You could even hold on to it like that. But I don't stuff mine very, very, very firm because I want them to be cuddly. But they still take a lot. So I still have a lot of room still to stuff in there. So that is quite stuffed. You can feel it's really nice. It's still huggable though. It doesn't have any sallow places. So let's keep on crocheting. We just finished our row of 3 single crochets followed by a decrease. So the next one, as you probably guessed, is 2 single crochets. 2 single crochets followed by a decrease. So I am slip stitching into the first. Now that it's stuffed, you really gotta cinch it closed. And that's okay. That's why we waited till the last time we possibly could, because otherwise you would have been doing this cinching however many rows back that you stuffed. So kind of a pain. So I'm going to single crochet 2 times followed by a decrease. And here's a decrease. And now I'm going to slip stitch, and our next row after chain 1 is single crochet and then decrease. Single crochet and then decrease. There we go. Go ahead and slip stitch into the first single crochet of this row, and this is what you're left with. And you have choices. I'm going to go ahead and decrease in each stitch around, and you might want to also. If you are already struggling with your decrease stitches and your foam is fighting you, go ahead and skip that and wait to see what I do after this, and you could just do that because we're going to sew this closed regardless. So you can sew now, or you could sew after another row of decreases. So I'm going to decrease in each stitch around, which should be 12 at this point. I haven't counted, but it should be 6 decrease stitches, and they have to be relatively tight. So if you have a hard time with your hands, go ahead and don't worry about this row. Here's 3. And 6 decreases. I'm going to slip stitch into the next one, pull through and fasten off, which if you stopped at the last one, just go ahead, slip stitch into the next one, pull through and fasten off with a few more open. Give yourself a nice length for sewing. Pull out your loop and thread. Now you don't want the puckering to go out. See how the puckering's kind of pulling those stitches out? You want to work on the outside of these stitches and just work directly across. So I'm just taking the outside of a stitch and the outside of another one and working across just to close it up. And if you want to work in any previous rows, if they look like they are being pulled by your fluff, like right here, it looks like it's being pulled by my fluff a little bit, but I'm gonna go ahead and take care of that by just manipulating this poor guy. There we go. And I'm going to go through several more times. Now I'm not pulling though. The difference is before I was really yanking to close that hole, and now I'm just almost threading through for security. Just for peace of mind. And going to go in here, come out here, and snip really close to the bee bottom. And there he is. He is all complete. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I really enjoyed spending time getting to crochet with you. And if you have any requests or suggestions for future crochet tutorials, I would love to hear about those down below. Thanks for stopping in. Have a great day and enjoy your bee. Bye guys.